Today, we have to make some clarity. Let's go. So today I want to talk about a topic that is very important for me because I'm seeing a lot of misusage of the word neurodiversity. So I wanted to explain a couple of things. First of all, where does neurodiversity come from? We have to go back to the 90s where Judy Singer, a sociologist in Australia, did two things. First, she finished her studies. So for the dissertation of her thesis, that's the topic of her thesis, neurodiversity, and also she wrote a couple of articles on the same topic. The concept that she introduces in her thesis is neurodiversity in comparison with biodiversity. So she explains very clearly that on one side we have, in the same way we can observe diversity in the expression of plants, of flowers, etc., which we call a biodiverse environment. Also, if we look at the human species, we also have some differences in the expression of our DNA, which we can analyze and call in one common word neurodiversity. Now, she introduces this to make a statement very clear.
When we talk about neurodiversity, in the same way we talk about biodiversity, we are not claiming a loss of something, but we are claiming a real difference, a different expression, so which is equally legitimate. It's just a difference, it's not something less.
So she introduced in this way three main concepts. One is neurodiversity, the other one is neurodivergence, in meaning that this is the individual, like every individual human being who is neurodiverse is neurodivergent. And then we have neurotypical. The neurotypical, so, is in the typical case. Now, this concept of neurodivergence has then been taken by different activist associations, in particular by activist Castiane Asasumasu, I'm reading from my paper, which brought this term into a political light. So using it as a way to label all sorts of disabilities, including, for example, Down syndrome.
And that's where I start losing my patience because I see this misusage of the term also on social media a lot, and unfortunately also by psychiatrists, by doctors, by psychologists who claim to be expert in the topic and speak in this term.
So for me, we have to make a very clear difference between the medical plan and the social plan. When we look at the medical plan, we are talking about neurodiversity in a specific way. Neurodiversity, if we look at the wording, the etymology of words, it means two things. Difference on a neuronal level. What do we mean by that? Is that the moment I'm going to be very brief and I will make another video on neurodevelopment alone. But now to give you the basics, so forgive me for the simplicism, but I have to. So if we look at neurodevelopment, it means that the moment your brain starts to develop in the fetus, the neurons are created and then are moving to areas of the brain which are not entirely correct. This results, for example, in processes that run in a different way. The most common thing, again, to be super simplistic, is the fact that you will have, as an ADHD or autistic or dyslexic, areas of your brain where the communication between neurons is crazy, is going like crazy, and other areas of your brain that have difficulties connecting with other zones that are remote from them, that are far away.
So there is a over connectivity on local spots and then a lower connectivity on remote areas.
That's all, to make it simple. Now, if we look at the Down syndrome, it's a completely different thing. It has nothing to do with neurodevelopmental disorders. We are talking about a genetic difference where instead of having two chromosomes number 21, this little embryon results immediately from the very first second of existence of that cell. We have 3 chromosomes 21. And this comes with a number of differences in the way the whole body works, not just the brain, but the whole body. Unfortunately, you can have cardiac diseases, you can have the development of early Alzheimer, a life expectation that is lower than a neurotypical individual. So you have a number of consequences on the whole organism, not just on the brain, as is the case for ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and so on. That's where I go mad against the usage of neurodivergence as an umbrella term for anything, because it's substantially different from a medical level and, more importantly, on an operational level for the medical practitioners, because dealing with a patient who has Down syndrome is absolutely different from dealing with an autistic. And even though socially, these are all disabilities that need attention and care and resonance on media and all of this, I cannot be more agreeing with this. However, we have to use specific terms for specific things. We cannot put everything together under the same level, because this means
Reducing everything to the same means banalizing the concept, means banalizing what it is.
what the consequences of this are, for example, that individuals like me who are autistic or ADHD and have a moderate expression of this neurodevelopmental disorder, they end up in a medical desert where absolutely nobody is prepared for this. So we are poorly diagnosed and we have very little to none follow up. So you end up by yourself because you are not so handicapped to need help, but you are also not fully functional to not need one.
You understand where I sit?
This is really complicated. Is really complicated, and putting everything together for the sake of inclusion, I'm sorry, is not what it should be. We need more inclusivity, yes, but we need level of inclusivity that are different for the different specific cases. So we cannot put together neurodevelopmental disorders with genetic variations because it's not the same thing. So on this chain, when I speak about neurodiversity, I speak about neurodevelopmental disorders that lead to different connectivity, different pathways within the brain. This is it.
Why I'm so passionate about this is exactly because I would like to get the right opportunities for support, whether it's medication, but more importantly, therapy, social therapy, etc., for everyone. Because everybody who has a different brain struggles in some ways, right? And even if you don't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just because those people have learned how to mask it very well. And this comes with a crazy overload that nobody is willing to take on forever.
We need help, and until the moment we are using neurodiversity for whatever, this is not going to happen. So I hope this is clear. Tell me in the comments if you have a different opinion, what has been your experience, and let me know.